Well, I came here to be more able to find gay life, and I stayed here, I don't know, because it was cheap and I was lazy. And I did find gay life, and I got friends and stuff. And yes, the East Village was very much a neighborhood, a community. You know, on days of voting, people would all come out and talk to each other and tell, oh, you can go into the polls, and you know, like it was like a big community meeting. And the art, I have to say, the art was one of the major things that made me stay. And I said, oh, I don't know where I'll find any of this. Anywhere else, all right. You know, anywhere else I could afford to live anyway. I wasn't very involved in art or anything at the time because I was being political and I didn't really understand how the connection or what, you know, I was a little confused. What can I say? I just thought, well, I'm not an artist and I don't have anything to contribute, so I should try to contribute where I could maybe do some good. I was, you know, I went to the marches and I went to a lot of anti-racist workshops where working class people yelled at middle class people and people of color, which wasn't anything new, but it was okay. I mean, I learned. I mean, whether people yelled at me or not, I was still going to try to overcome, you know, my own personal stereotypes and prejudices.
I was very, very, very depressed with the breakdown that happened between Jews and blacks in New York, because
oh God, did that get me?
There really wouldn't have been a civil rights movement without the involvement of Jews, and a lot of people don't know that.
Well, they were one of the founders of the NAACP. However, W.E.B. Du Bois said something that I was aware of very well, very, very early on, that the Jewish people involved in the NAACP at the turn of the century were very condescending and patronizing to the African Americans. And I knew that. Just somehow I knew that that was the case. I have a very good friend who I fight with all the time, but she happens to be African American, and she said, we know when you stand in 2 feet of water, you're going to get wet. She said the same thing with racism and classism. If you grow up in a racist and classist society, you're going to be racist and classist no matter how much your good intentions are. But she said, you know, you can always, you know, raise your consciousness. That's the whole thing, just raise your consciousness. I think that the Jews who used to be involved like that were first generation and second generation, and when you get to people get rich and they go to the suburbs and they get to the third generation, they don't care. It's white skin privilege, you know, they forget. They don't understand what it means to grow up in the shadow of World War II or to grow up in World War II. I mean, shit, I grew up with those horrible stories from the time I was 4 years old. And the first thing I said to my grandparents was, how come you came here then? Why did you come here then? Because I thought it could have been me. I used to have nightmares about that. So, I mean, it was really a serious deal for me.
Helicopters now passing over 8th Street, hovering.
That was it was like one of the most frightening things I've ever seen. And one of the reasons that I really got to like Clayton is because he had the balls to film it. And he was beaten up more than once, but really badly. And he just kept going, man.
They're attacking the crowd. They're attacking the crowd.
They didn't like the homeless people. They were in the south side of the park.
And that the homeless be allowed to stay.
They were very well organized at one point. That man complained because he was kicked out because he was using drugs, and they were blaming the drug people on the homeless people, and that they didn't have anything to do with each other. They needed a place to live. They didn't have a place to live. Why couldn't they stay there? They weren't hurting anybody. They don't want to give them housing. They want to give them a decent job, and they can't even let them have a lousy little piece of land
Helicopters are
just to put up a tent. They freeze all winter.
Put their camps up there.
That's really stinky. That's disgusting. That was
I think it's
horrible.
absolutely disgusting.
And it was really frightening. It was terribly, terribly frightening.
What's your name, ma'am? My name is Marianne Torillo.
Are you an anarchist?
Yeah. Dyed in the wool.
Dyed in the wool anarchist.
Yeah. I'm an anarchist in two ways. I'm an anarchist by temperament, but I didn't figure out I was an anarchist by political and philosophy for a while, till I was about, I don't know, in my early 30s. Because I didn't understand what anarchism was about. I thought anarchism meant Bakunin, blow everything up, for contemporary American ears, I think the best explanation is it's Jeffersonian democracy, the way it should be, where you have people govern themselves in small groups. It's decentralization, it's grassroots, it's respect for other people, deep down respect for people. I mean, seriously, trying to put yourself and walk a mile in the other person's moccasins or whatever you want to put it. And the thing is that people always love to say, oh, I'm oppressed, I'm going to start a group and tell everybody I hate the whole world except my group, which is, you know, if you don't want somebody to oppress you, then you shouldn't, you know, be oppressive to other people, even if you think they're your oppressors. You should tell them, you know, if you have the balls to, or if you don't have the balls yourself, then you should write it or get somebody who knows, who talks better than you to say it for you. Do something, you know, constructive instead of, because it just makes the world an uglier place to keep more hate going on.